From the classroom to today, we're reconnecting on the way. Sharing stories, dreams, and paths. Discovering the impact that lasts. The impact that lasts. The stories unfold. Lives transformed. Future.
Welcome to the Impact That Lasts. I'm reconnecting with a former student that I taught about 25 years ago. Let's see where life has taken her and what lessons she has learned along the way. Today, we welcome Shawntey. How are you doing, Shawntey?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, you are one of the students that I have not been in contact with since high school, since I taught you. So, it's been a long time. So, let's take a trip way back to Hillcrest High School. How old were you when I first met, and what did I teach you in high school?
I was about 15, I want to say, and I first met you around pre-nursing classes. I believe it was maybe a fundamentals class. And I remember after that, you taught pathophysiology when we got into the nursing program.
So, I don't know if you could remember this far back, but what was it like being a teenage nurse student?
Oh, it was a struggle because I remember hitting my books almost every day. It was like you had no breaks really. Between clinicals and trying to get a hold of like different topics, different subjects, it was like you had to balance. It was a constant back and forth between being a teenager and trying to have that nursing background.
So, thinking back, and I know it's been a long time, it's been, I think, 25 years, right?
Right.
Since that time. Um,
hmm
what would you say was most impactful that you can remember that I said or did that stayed with you throughout your life?
Oh, throughout my life, I remember you always had visual aids or acronyms to remember certain subjects. So, for example, I always remembered ADEC for fat soluble vitamins. And I remember there was a topic about pernicious anemia. And you actually created a character, and the character was named Perny A. I would never forget.
Really?
Perny A, yes. And then the character highlighted all the symptoms of pernicious anemia. So I thought that was very creative. And it helped because then with along with the visual aids and remembering that character, you could not forget the symptoms. So it made it easy. It made it fun. And if students couldn't understand like the visual aid part of learning, you taught us to use like flashcards or anything that would help us remember the subjects. So I thought that was very helpful.
Okay. And if you could go back now and talk to your 17-year-old self, how old are you now, and what would you say to your 17-year-old self?
Well, currently I'm 40, and this week actually is my birthday on Thursday, so I'll be
Oh,
41.
happy birthday.
Thank you. So, to highlight what I would say to my 17-year-old self is that, you are blessed. You are truly blessed because a lot of students, when I reflect back, they look back and they say, wow, you had the opportunity to become a nurse at that age. And it's unfortunate that some of these programs do not exist anymore. We have nursing programs, but geared towards high school, I think a lot of the programs had either were eliminated or, you do have, your CNA programs, but, what inspired a lot of people is to know that they had these LPN programs at that time. And it helped shape and define who we were and who we are now as individuals. So I would say to my 17-year-old self that you are definitely blessed to have had that opportunity.
It was definitely game changing because I became a teenage nurse as well, graduating from the same program that you did and then coming back
Right.
to teach, and it has changed my life tremendously. So, yeah, it is definitely important and game changing. Another question that I had was, what did you do after high school in terms of your educational path, and what are you doing now?
Well, after high school, I went straight into the nursing program to get my RN. So what I did was I did bachelor's. I started with my bachelor's. I went to LIU in Brooklyn. And then after that, I took about a year and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back and get my NP. So I decided to go to Adelphi and complete my master's. And after that, I said, you know what? I am going to take a little break too to just research what I really wanted to do because there's so many areas that in nursing you can specialize in. And sometimes it becomes intimidating when you decide, okay, what path do I want to take? What is the path that I really want to address when I go out into the community. So after I finished school, I was kind of in limbo because I was still a pediatric nurse too at the time when I was, going back and forth with school. I also did adult-gerontology, um, in the nursing homes, and then I did hospital. I did a little bit of home care. And I said, you know what? Why not go back to wound care? Why not go back to wound care? So I was researching wound care for quite some time, never really thought about taking it seriously until towards the pandemic. And I realized that, there's baby boomers out there and, they need care. They're going to need a lot of care. And wound care, people overlook wound care, but they don't realize that the skin is the largest organ of the body. So it takes a toll on the elderly population. And because they have so many comorbidities and they have risk factors, I feel like wound care sometimes gets overlooked. So I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to start going into that wound care space. And that's where I've been for the past maybe almost 2 years now.
So your
Um,
master's degree was in what? And then
adult gerontology,
adult
primary care,
gerontology,
primary care.
primary care, and then the
Mhm.
wound care is what?
The wound care came up as added, like I would say added to what I'm doing now. So I didn't really want to go straight into primary care. What I did was I wanted to focus more on wound care. I wanted to get a specialty area that was more focused because I felt like sometimes primary care can be broad and you see so many different patients, but then wound care is more focused. And I feel like sometimes you can address more with wounds because wounds, you have to think on a holistic level also.
So now you're a nurse practitioner and your specialty is wound care and the elderly care combined, or more
Yes,
focus
it's
on,
both.
oh,
It's
both.
both.
Okay.
It's both.
And do you work in a hospital? Do you work in a nursing home? Are you a supervisor? What do you do?
So what I do, I work in the assisted living facilities. So I have three assisted living facilities that I round in, and I'm basically a wound care consultant. So in my role, what I do is I educate, I counsel residents and their families to find out how they have wounds develop along with their risk factors. So I'm like more of a adjunct to the facilities and the staff to kind of guide them, and give them some opportunities to learn more about wounds and how they occur and define a little bit more some of those risk factors and comorbidities that can cause wounds.
Nice.
And along with that, I also bring to the forefront some of the wound care modalities that have changed over the years because sometimes people use like a lot of old school methods and they don't realize that technology has advanced a lot, even in the wound care space. So I bring that also to the forefront.
You may need to teach me and catch me up because all I remember is the old wound vac, and I
Yeah, the
know
old
we
wound
must
back.
be beyond that at this point.
Right. And wet to
So,
dry. Yeah, a lot of that
oh
has
well, I'm
phased out.
way past the wet to dry. That was back 20 years ago.
Children.
Yeah. So you did peds, you did adult gerontology, you did wound care. What do you see yourself doing 5 years from now? Do you think you're going to stay in the wound care space? Is there a doctorate in your future, or you didn't get that far in your thought process yet?
Well, 5 years from now, I feel like I would still be in the wound care space, but I feel like I can explore and go into different spaces. But a thing about me is that I find that I start researching different areas that I can place myself. It's not so much as, okay, I want to specialize in this area, I want to specialize in that area. I feel like if I do enough research to find out what is out there, because sometimes we get so caught up into just thinking that, okay, this just primary care, but I feel like I want to educate maybe in the future. Yeah, I feel like I want to educate.
Well, keep in touch with me because you know I'm in that education space.
Yes,
And
yes,
look
yes.
how life goes full circle.
True, true.
So, if you had to say anything to a 17-year-old that may be watching this, that's in high school, that don't really know what they want to do, what would you probably say to them?
I would tell them go for it. There are a lot of different areas in nursing, and nursing is a rewarding field. It's just that you have to have the guts to do it. You have to have that guts, and you have to have patience. Patience goes a long way, and you have to really have that drive and determination. And once you have that drive and determination, figuring out what your goals are, you can make it.
And in closing, is there anything in general that you want to say? What does it feel to look back at your high school teacher from 25 years ago? Is that a weird feeling?
It's inspiring, actually. It's very inspiring because you get to look back over the years and you say, wow, wow, you were in that space and look how far we've both become, in that space. And it's an honor to be a part of that space.
Thank you. I feel the same. Like I have done a lot of projects in my life, but this Impact That Last project is probably one of my top two projects that I have ever taken on because it's so nice for me to go back 20, 25, 30 years to students that I taught in high school and to see how far they've come, right? So
Right.
and all of them are not even nurses, but for the
Mhm.
most part, it's just very nice to look at the success and to look at the growth. And I think what's most um, impressive to me is students are telling me, I remember you taught this lesson and you said, bah, and I still remember it. And I'm like, what? And
Yes,
so many
yes.
students have told me specific lessons that I taught 25 years ago
25 years ago.
that they
Hmm.
still remember. And I feel like
Hmm.
that is definitely an impact. So
It
I
is an
am
impact.
grateful that God has put me in this space to be an educator and to educate myself so that I would be a great educator and I can go back 25 years and my students could say, I remember when you taught me this. So I'm
Right.
grateful as well to have had the opportunity. And thank you so much for saying yes and for sharing your story with us today. So, in
Yes.
closing, your journey reminds us that success isn't a straight line and that the impact of a teacher can last far beyond the classroom.
Yes. And I'm glad to have been a part of this opportunity.
All right. And thank you so much.
Thank you.